Hi, everybody. My name is Leah Groppo. I'm one of the registered dietitians and diabetes educators at Stanford Healthcare. I'm delighted to introduce this event that we have on today. So we're celebrating World Diabetes Day as well as Diabetes Awareness Month, so November. And so this year we're partnering with the Health Library at Stanford and Stanford Media to bring you this event where we're going to first talk food. So I'm going to go over some demonstrations for snacks and some lunch ideas. And then we're going to have some breakout rooms where you can see some of the options that Stanford offers for people living with diabetes. So Diabetes Research Center, Diabetes Care Program, and then also the Health Library. So you can get all of your burning questions answered. And then finally, we're going to have Gina Milano come on, and she's going to lead us through some exercises that we can do at home, at our desk, something that's easy to get our blood pumping. So that's what our day is planned for today. We're so grateful that you all can make it. And so without sort of further ado, let's start these recipes. So today I'm going to lead you through 3 different snack recipes and 2 different lunch recipes. So we're going to talk about some sweet and savory almonds, some roasted garbanzo beans, and some steamed edamame. And then we're going to do a wrap with a wrap sort of example for lunch, and then also English muffin pizzas, one of my family favorites. So we're going to start off with those almonds. So to start, it's very simple. You just need spices. I normally use cinnamon and pumpkin spices, especially with this season right now. You need an egg or just some egg whites. I normally just use the egg white from this to make it extra frothy. So to separate my egg, I'm just going to do that. So I have my egg white, and then I'm going to sort of beat that up until it's frothy. So I like this one because not only is it something tasty, it's also a great workout. So beating that until it's frothy, and then I'm going to add in some cinnamon. In general, I add in about a tablespoon of cinnamon to this. More if you want, it's up to you. And then I love to add in some pumpkin spice as well. So this has more cinnamon, it has cloves, it has nutmeg, all those sort of warm spices that you may get from a pumpkin pie. So great to put in, about half a teaspoon for that. And then sometimes, like if we want to kick it up a notch, I'll add a little sprinkle of cayenne pepper in there as well. And then I'll keep mixing it up until it's sort of all mixed and frothy. And then I will add in my almonds and just kind of coat those and put them on a baking tray. I have a little bit of a funny story because I was preparing and I wanted to have some almonds ready to show you. So here's what it looks like when it pops out of the oven. Okay, so I have a funny story I have to share. So I was trying to prepare all the final products because I know we only have 25 minutes to get through all these snacks and all these meals. And so last night I was prepping them. My almonds were actually cooling on the stovetop. I went back in to sort of finish typing up some of these recipes, and all of a sudden I heard this crunch, crunch, crunch noise. And I was thinking to myself, what is that noise? I popped out to my living room and my husband was eating all of the almonds that I had already prepared. And I was laughing because I told him those were actually for tomorrow, for my cooking demo. And he just looked at me a little bit guilty and he said, well, they're pretty tasty. I think there's only 5 left. And lo and behold, there are only 5 almonds left on the counter. So I actually remade another batch. So this is actually the batch that just popped out of the oven a little bit ago. And so to take them off, I just kind of move them around, and then you get this like very nicely crunchy coated almond with a little spice, a little sweet, but you can definitely modify it based on your own flavor preferences. If you only want sweet or if you only want savory. Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. So for mine, to make it a little bit sweeter, instead of just adding the spices, I normally add a tablespoon of monk fruit sweetener. or I'll add a tablespoon of brown sugar. So I know some people say, oh, regular sugar, I'm not sure if I can have that. It's only 12 extra carbs for the entire cup of almonds. So if you have the serving of a quarter cup of almonds, it ends up only being 6 carbs, even with the brown sugar. So it's up to you. You could use sugar substitute or regular sugar. The sugar substitute, it's only 2 grams per quarter cup versus 6, not a big difference. So it's up to your preference. So that's recipe number 1. So we're gonna keep moving because I have a lot that I want to show you today. I was very excited to plan for this. Another one of my favorite snacks actually is just frozen edamame. So edamame are soybeans. You can buy them in the store in the freezer aisle. So sometimes I just buy them frozen. You can put them in the microwave, not even with any water, for 4 minutes or so, and they pop out and they're ready to go. So I love edamame because it has a little bit of carbohydrates, but not very much, mostly fiber, and it has some protein. So it's going to give you a lot of that lasting satiety and fullness that a lot of people are looking for. And it also has a very like buttery, delicious texture. So with edamame, sometimes I actually try to jazz it up. And so even though they taste delicious plain, you can also add some granulated garlic, for example, to the outside, almost like flavoring your popcorn, or some onion, granulated onion I'll add on it. Or sometimes I'll add a little bit of olive oil and a little bit of sea salt just to give it some extra flavor. The one thing you have to watch about edamame is sometimes they come pre-salted. So in general, when I purchase them, I try to get the unsalted bean version because that allows me to season as I want versus letting the company seasoning. So I have those. These are the frozen option. And then if we look over here, I started some in my microwave, put them in for 4 minutes, and see these are all ready to go, ready to pack in a lunch. They're great for kids, they're great for family, and then I always kind of take them to work. So here's what one of the beans looks like. In general, I'll pack a cup of edamame beans in a to-go container, and that will be a great snack as well. Great. Also, if you have any questions, we have Catherine. She's one of our other dietitians who's going to monitor the questions and ask me as we go. Okay, so we're moving right along. So next I wanted to talk to you about a little bit of a higher carb snack that's packed with fiber and lots of nutrition. So I have roasted garbanzo beans. So I just took a can of garbanzo beans, low sodium. So for half a cup, the low sodium garbanzo beans has 140 milligrams of sodium, which is considered low sodium, a low sodium option. So I just rinsed and drained them in my colander. So here they are. And to that, I want to add 2 teaspoons of olive oil. You can add more or less, kind of shake it around. And then today I have just taco seasoning that I wanted to add half a teaspoon. And so kind of shake that up. And then we're gonna actually just put this on a baking sheet and bake it at 375 for about, in general, 40-45 minutes. So I bake these for a little bit longer because personally, I love garbanzo beans when they're crispy and crunchy, kind of like popcorn. Popcorn is one of my absolute favorite snacks. And so to make these a little bit more like a crunchy popcorn, I'll bake them for longer, like 45 minutes. But today we actually have some that I started baking this morning, so I can show you what they look like when they're finished. So this is the garbanzo beans. Sometimes if I don't want to do like a taco seasoning, instead I'll do maybe some dill if I want more Mediterranean flavors, or maybe I'll do some cumin. So cumin pairs really great with garbanzo beans. Oftentimes when people make hummus, because you make hummus with garbanzo beans, they'll put tahini, which is ground sesame seeds. They'll put a dash of cumin, salt, pepper, garlic, and lemon. But the cumin gives it kind of that extra oomph of flavor. So it's also great in the roasting process if you wanted to do that. And then again, sometimes I'll do garlic and granulated onion because those are my favorite flavors. And then as my daughter likes to say, sometimes I'll just add pepper. So she's younger, she's about 2, and she loves to say the word pepper. So if she asks, I always add pepper into whatever I'm cooking because she's asked for it. So here we go. These are our garbanzo beans ready to be baked. So I'll go put them on the tray and in the oven. And then I wanted to pop back and show you what they look like actually cooked. So if you all can see, and here, see how toasty they are? In my family, we really like the garbanzo beans when they are really crunchy and crispy. If you wanted to cook them a little bit less, maybe like 20 minutes, they are crispy on the outside and softer on the inside. So it's up to your preference. So if you prefer to have garbanzo beans more like that, then that is also fine. So when we think about the garbanzo beans, about 1/4 cup of my garbanzo beans are about 15 carbohydrates. And a huge portion of that actually is fiber. About 4 of those grams are fiber. So really high fiber, slower burning carbohydrate, something that can be hopefully satiating and also a good snack. Are there any questions from anybody? Feel free to put them in the chat and I can definitely answer them. Okay, so moving along. So we've done the almonds, right? We could do them sweet or savory. We've done the garbanzo beans, and then we've also done the edamame. So those are kind of the 3 snacks that I really wanted to talk about. But I also wanted to mention that this year in the pandemic, we've been kind of traveling to a lot of our different dietitians' kitchens and sort of see what they like to cook up for their families. So Jessica, one of our dietitians, Jessica Shipley, has been cooking up banana muffins with some almond flour with her daughter. And so we have that recipe in some of our recordings. We have some cauliflower salad recipes that you can see from Andrea. Elaine did a chicken parmesan, and Katie, one of our nurses, did a tofu a marinated tofu recipe. So if any of these also sound like delicious snacks that you might want to add to your repertoire, feel free to check out our videos and you can sort of see if those are other options. Because in this 25 minutes, it's hard to cover everything. So I wanted to give a quick shout out. Okay, so now we're going to think about making some lunches. So I always think lunch foods can also be snack foods. There's not a great definition, but these are things I think more about in lunch options. So my family loves pizza, I will say, like everybody loves pizza. And so I started this recipe called English muffin pizzas. And I don't even know if we need to call it a recipe. It's basically just English muffins, sauce, cheese, and whatever I have in my refrigerator. So it's a very flexible recipe and it's always a winner. So I feel like everybody likes it. So it's an easy thing to make. So today, as I show you, I'm going to start with an English muffin. I divide it in half. So each half is about 15 grams of carbohydrate, 30 grams of carbohydrate for the whole thing. For this one, it's a high fiber English muffin, so all whole grain. And so there's 4 grams of fiber that go with this English muffin. And then I just layer on just red sauce that I have, if I have it in my pantry, or if recently I've been, maybe I have a lot of extra tomatoes or something like that, I'll just boil tomatoes down with a little olive oil and garlic and make my own red sauce. So it could be either option. I feel like the one I make from scratch just has a little bit more flavor. And then next, I just kind of layer on the cheese. So I don't have an exact measurement. I will say some people in my family like more cheese, some people like less cheese. I tend to like a lot more cheese than maybe other people. So some of them are higher cheese and some are less. And then this is basically your blank canvas for whatever flavors you like. So for example, sometimes I'll put on some chicken sausage, which I have right here, and sprinkle that on top. Sometimes I'll put some mushrooms, which I also have. Sometimes I'll put some bell peppers on, which we also have around the house a lot, for it to kind of look like this before it goes into the oven. One of the things I really like to do is with bell peppers, if I make a stuffed bell pepper or something, I'll keep the tops, just like these little sections, and they actually do really well if you just dice them up. They turn into perfect little English muffin pizza sizes. So I'll do that. And then if I want to kick up the flavoring of it, sometimes I'll add Italian style seasoning and just sprinkle that on top for a little bit of extra like oregano flavor for the seasoning. And then these just kind of go in the oven at 375 for maybe 20 minutes until the cheese is melted. So for this, I also have an end product I can show you over here. So here are my English muffin pizzas that I made yesterday. So yesterday I put a little bit of pepperoni, one slice on some of them. Some of them I made vegetarian. So it just depends on what you like. I would say my family are avid pepperoni enjoyers, so I'll sometimes add just one for flavor. Another thing that I like to do is just put these English muffin pizzas, and I will actually put them in the freezer. So I'll freeze them open like that, and once they're frozen, I'll gather them all and put them in maybe like a gallon-sized bag, so anyone in my family can pop over and just heat them up. I think somebody asked how I would reheat these. So typically I just put them back in the oven or a toaster oven. You can microwave them, but I tend to prefer toaster. But if you're at work, I would just put them in the microwave for maybe 1 minute until the cheese gets soft again. I would also say my husband really actually just enjoys them cold, not frozen, but he'll just grab one from the fridge, just like a cold piece of pizza. So that can be an option as well. And then I have one more recipe in my sort of final moments. This is one of my sort of favorite things to do in the fall. So I love to make wraps with whole wheat tortillas. So I'll take a whole wheat tortilla. There are actually a whole bunch of new tortillas that are more called like carb smart tortillas that have a lot of extra fiber supplements in them, like inulin, for example. So they're really high fiber and lower in available carbohydrates. So that's another option. This is just a plain whole wheat tortilla that I chose at the store. So for this recipe, to make a wrap, it's another one of those ones where you can put whatever flavors you like. But for me, I like to do sort of like a Thanksgiving inspired wrap. So for me, I have some chicken that I roasted earlier, right here. I'm gonna put it right down the center. I have some roasted veggies that I had from the other night, so I'm gonna put some of those veggies on as well. And then to make it a little bit more festive, I was hoping to use some cranberry sauce, but I actually thought I had some, but did not have some. So instead, I'm using some fig jam. So I have a fig tree, so I make some fig jam. So I'm using a little bit of fig jam. I'm using 1/4 teaspoon, spreading it on there. And then I'm also going to use some cream cheese. So the reason why I use cream cheese is because I consider cream cheese like the glue that holds this wrap together. So I'm going to take a little bit and actually just spread it on the side of the tortilla, almost like getting ready to glue something. So if you can see, and then I'll take it and I'll just roll that tortilla up and then press it down and stick it. So it's kind of like this. And then finally, if you want to see what it's like, sometimes I'll just put it in some foil or a Tupperware like that, but sometimes I'll cut it into pieces. So pieces like this, and then I'll layer them in my lunch bag. Here are some ones that I did yesterday. I think I put less of everything in it yesterday, but this one's a little bit more of a robust one, so you can make it however you want. But this is kind of another way to just add leftovers. Sometimes I use just veggies, and I'll do bell peppers in it, and tofu, like the marinated tofu in Katie's cooking demo. And then other times I'll do like turkey and roast beef and a little bit of cheese, and roll that up with a little bit of cream cheese. So it's a lot of variety you can add. I do always try to add some veggies, like if I have roasted veggies or grilled veggies to a wrap, to give it just a little bit more fiber, more satiating, and make it delicious. Oh, I almost forgot. So right now I'm growing arugula. And so I went out and just picked some arugula. So that was like, that could be another option to add some flavor and some crunch into this wrap. If you just wanted to put kind of a bunch of those in the wrap, I would say before you fold it, but I didn't do it, but you can always add that as well.
Hey, Leah, we have a question from someone. So you put cream cheese and the chicken in the wraps, or sorry, turkey. Someone's asking, what would a vegetarian or vegan do for protein?
Yeah, great. So I would say the marinated tofu that Katie has in her cooking demonstration has some balsamic vinegar in it, some Italian seasoning, some garlic. So that would be a great option. When I do vegan options of this, I actually like to do that a lot as well. I cut the tofu, the firm tofu, into strips. Sometimes I'll kind of pan fry it with some olive oil and garlic and balsamic vinegar and just put those strips in instead. You could also do hummus and bell peppers, stuff that inside the tortilla as well, and kind of make that more of like a Mediterranean wrap. If you were not doing vegan, you could add some tzatziki, so some yogurt sauce in as well, and some cucumbers. It would be very delicious. But that's why I wanted to kind of highlight all of these different recipes, because I almost don't consider them recipes. They're so flexible because we all have our own taste preferences. And so all of these can be very adapted to whatever you and your family enjoy eating. And so I think that's kind of the benefit. I have the recipes that I've written out, but they're really, it's vague. It's mostly the temperatures and all the things that I might put in. But I would say to be creative in the kitchen and put in whatever things you and your family like to eat, I think is a great option. And for all of these recipes, you just can't go wrong. So that's basically, those are all the things I wanted to go over. So we did the steamed edamame, we did the sweet or savory almonds, we did the roasted chickpeas, we did pizzas, English muffin pizzas, and then a wrap. So we did this all in less than 20 minutes. I know I didn't allow for cooking time, but I just wanted to encourage you to think about sort of planning some of these meals and snacks, especially as we get into the holiday season, so that we can have healthy options on hand when we get hungry, because it's you never know when hunger is going to hit. So that kind of concludes what I wanted to talk about today. But I also wanted to have a little bit of the opportunity to talk about World Diabetes Day. So World Diabetes Day is actually on November 14th. And it's one of the co-founders of Insulin's birthday. So we celebrate and we talk about advocating for access to care for people living with diabetes a lot on that day. And we used to have this very large health fair at Stanford. And we would all provide education booths and have just basically a party around diabetes and health education. And it was one of my favorite days in the entire year at Stanford. And with the pandemic, we've really tried to convert that to virtual. So today is our first virtual health fair with the Diabetes Care Program. And so I just really wanted to say thank you for being a part of this first time. And maybe next year we can go back to in person, but if not, I think it would be great to continue this virtual option as well for people. Okay, so I have the great pleasure of introducing my colleague, Gina Milano. She's one of our dietitians, and she specializes in the bariatric group, but she actually also worked in the Diabetes Care Program for about a year and taught our classes. So she's very familiar and knowledgeable with diabetes. And I just think from a personal side, Gina is just the warmest, most caring person that I've ever met. So we're just so grateful to have her to lead us in some exercise.
Well, hello, everyone. Great to see a bunch of new faces. And as Leah said, my name is Gina. I'm a dietitian here at Stanford, and exercise is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about, aside from nutrition, managing your blood sugars, weight loss, all of the et cetera. Of course, I love activity, and activity can be a big challenge to kind of fit into our daily routines, right? Maybe we're working all day, maybe we're not as active as we used to be, maybe we have some chronic ailments that don't allow us to be as active. So I'm going to walk you through some quick movements you can do seated at your desk. You can do seated at your chair at home, wherever you are. These are things to kind of loosen up the body. This isn't going to be intense. This is going to be nice and easy and simple to kind of get things moving. So for those of you where a lot of us are seated in our chairs here, so we're just going to go ahead and you can just be nice and relaxed. And a lot of us hold a lot of tension in our necks and in our shoulders. And so something we want to kind of stretch out is going to be this area. So part of our movement, we're going to kind of work head to toe. All right. So our first movement that we're going to do is just kind of stretching this part of our neck out. So go ahead and imagine putting your ear to your shoulder, your right ear to your right shoulder, and then gently place your right hand on top of your head. You should feel a nice little stretch in here. If you spend a lot of time at the computer like I do, this is probably pretty tight. So just hold this here for 5 more seconds and then gently release. We're going to repeat that same movement on the other side. Now, if this bothers your neck at all, you can just kind of turn your head from side to side if that causes any pain. So left ear to left shoulder, place that left hand right on top. Are we feeling a little bit of stretch in here, hopefully? Excellent. All right, now release. Okay, now that's warmed up the neck area. Now we're going to warm up the shoulders. This is where we hold a lot of tension. So you're just going to do shoulder rolls backwards, nice and easy. This really gets your shoulders loosened up. We have a lot of tension in this area, so this kind of gets you moving a little bit, get that blood flow going. Good. I see a lot of you doing it so perfectly. And then let's roll it forward. Very nice. Kind of got to go forwards and backwards. Good. All right. Now moving on to the next movement, we're going to put our arms out like a T. And you can do this standing or sitting, whatever's comfortable for you. But we're just going to do some simple arm circles to get the shoulder joints a little bit loosened up. So just going forward, do a little bit of your arm circles here. Nice and slow. No need to get your arms up super high, just right in line with your shoulders. And then let's go backwards. Perfect. All right, this is good. Now a little bit more shoulder work because our shoulders are really important. So is our upper body. If you think about moving yourself out of a chair, you're going to use a lot of that upper body strength. And we do that movement all the time. So you're going to go ahead and we're going to do an arm or a shoulder press, as we'll call it. So kind of hold your arms in like a goalpost motion, and then you're just going to press up and then down. And notice my hands are in a fist. If you clench it into a fist, this is going to create some tension. So this is really going to work your muscles. So up and down. Oh yeah, you guys look so good. I love it. So keep doing that and really squeeze those angel wings right in the back when you come down. That's a nice little shoulder press. If you want to level this movement up, you can always take some cans that you might have at home of some soup or maybe some coconut milk. Use those for weights or even weights if you want to do that. All right, moving on to our next one. Now, if you're a typer or you spend a lot of time seated, maybe writing or playing games on the computer, whatever that looks like, we want to stretch out your forearms here and kind of get these nice and lubed up, so to speak. So you're just going to put your arm out kind of like this with your fingertips down. And with your other hand, we're just going to bend it so slightly. Now, if this causes any tension, you just let us know. But this should feel a nice little stretch in your forearm. It shouldn't be painful, but for some of us who it might be a little bit more tight, you'll definitely feel it. We'll hold this for 5 more seconds. Excellent. And then moving on to the other side, arms straight out, fingertips pointing downwards. And take your other arm and just loosen it up a little bit. Feeling pretty good. All right, now I'm going to stand up for this, and this is going to be a little bit more active because again, we want to get quick movement in during the day. This is perfect for any of you who are at home, maybe seated like myself, or you're working and you want to get a little bit more movement in. This is going to be great. So we're going to get this middle part of our body nice and warmed up, and we're just going to do some side stretches. So go ahead, get those feet nice and planted, nice and firmly, and you're going to take your left arm, Your right arm here is right on your hip, and we're just gonna stretch over and hold this. Yeah, looking good. And then you can come back. Excellent. We'll do it again. Nice big stretch. Perfect. Do it one more time. Awesome. And again, you can do this seated too if you don't want to stand. Moving on to the other side, because what we do on one side, we have to repeat on the other. So left hand on your hip, take your other arm, and we're just going to bend over. Perfect. Come back. Do it once more. And you already are probably starting to feel maybe some of that body tension and stress is starting to melt away. Excellent. Now we're going to get a little bit more active, okay? Because we're getting nice and warmed up. So we're going to take, I call these windmills. And so what we're going to do is you're going to kind of imagine your right hand touching your left toe. You'll come back up, and then your left hand will touch your right toe. Now, if you can't touch your toes, that's totally fine. If you just touch your knee, that's fine as well. So this starts to get the whole body loosened up, as well as your hamstrings, your quads, all that good stuff, right? So this is what you'll do. Hands out to a T. We'll start with your right hand to your toe and back. Left hand to your right toe and back. And you can pick up the pace as you feel comfortable to kind of get that heart rate up for that 5-minute movement here. Keep it going. You're probably feeling a nice big old stretch in those hamstrings. I know I am. All that sitting. All right, good. 2 more. Last one. All right, windmills done. Now, we want to kind of work that lower body just a little bit more. One of my favorite compound movements that you can do anywhere. You can do this in the bathroom at work. You can do it at home. You can do it, outside while you're waiting to pick your kids up from school. Basically anywhere is a squat. And so for a squat, we're just going to try to put a lot of our weight in our heels to make sure that we're doing the movement appropriately, right? Now, if you're a little bit unstable, you can get your chair or a desk, and you can kind of have this here to protect you for balancing. But we're just going to go do a nice squat. So here's a nice little side view. You can hold your hands out or your hands together, whatever you prefer. Just going to do a nice little squat. And as you come up, just got to squeeze your bottom to get all that glutes engaged here. Nice little squat here. Good. Now, you don't have to go too low, whatever you're comfortable with. But you want to make sure your muscles are nice and engaged, all right? So squeeze those peaches right at the top. Good. And we're going to do 3 more. All right, and then our last one coming up. Good. Perfect. So that's a great little way to kind of get the bottom all warmed up. And now we're going to take that up a notch, okay? So you remember how I had you do the shoulder press earlier, and we just did a squat? We're going to put those two together. So it'll look something like this. You can have your hands up if you want. Really just depends on what you're comfortable with. We're going to do a squat and press. Squat and press. Now, if you're not so comfortable doing them together, you can always do squat and then press. Whatever you're most comfortable with, okay? Let's do about 5 here. Here we go. And press. And press. You guys are looking good. For those of you who I can see. All right, now 2 more. Last one. Excellent. Wonderful. Now, one more thing that you can do if you want to work the arms a little bit more, if you want to do the squats together, is we can throw in a little bit of boxing. Now, these are something you can do seated if you don't want to squat. So, for example, you're going to pair these arms with your squats. So you'll do a punch to the right, or to the left, I should say, a punch to the right. So you'll do some punches, and that kind of gets the upper body together. So you can do this seated. If you want to stand up and do it with your squats, we'll demonstrate that here. You would do squat and punch, squat and punch. Again, these are all little movements that you can do Savory Wraps. So we'll kind of do the squat and punches together, okay? Let's do 5 of those. All right, here we go. And punch, squat, and punch. Now with your punches, you want to make sure that you're really giving it a good punch, because that's going to engage your muscles and make you feel nice and strong. All right, 2 more. Last one. All right, so that's kind of a small little routine you can do. You can do this multiple times over and over. It just kind of depends on what you have time for, what your body is saying, all these different things. But how I like to end things is just to do a big inhale and exhale, okay? So we're just gonna stand here nicely together, and we're gonna go breathe in with your hands up, and then let it all out. One more, okay? Breathe in, let it all out. And that's a quick little routine you can do throughout the day that gets you moving. And even though it's not something that we might consider a high intensity exercise routine or anything that would be, you know, really advantageous as far as like exercise, all movement counts, right? So any way you can get your body moving, the better it is for your overall health. And then we'll definitely take some questions if anyone has any questions as far as how to do these exercises, etc.
I think one of the questions was asking if where they could look at your exercises. So we'll send the recording out for of Gina's exercise. And then people are asking a lot around blood sugars and exercise. Can you comment on maybe what exercise can do to help with blood sugar control, Gina?
Yes, great question. So exercise and blood sugar control, any kind of movement is going to be mostly beneficial for lowering your blood sugars. And so it can be as simple as just going for a 5-minute walk outside. It could be going for a bike ride, a low impact movement. Sometimes if you're doing things like running or climbing stairs or maybe hiking, something a little bit more intense, your body responds, and that actually can make your blood sugars go up a little bit. And you would think, but I'm exercising. Why is this happening? It's the type of intensity and exercise, but in general, going for a nice walk, a bike ride, maybe dancing in your kitchen, those can all be some really simple ways to help lower those blood sugars. Because your muscles are using all of the sugar in your blood for energy. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, excellent. I think we actually have a live participant who wants to ask a question. They're raising their hand.
Oh, please do.
Yeah, Bob, if you want to go for it, you can unmute yourself and ask Gina your question.
Actually, I have a comment. I find that it's challenging to get self-motivated to do the exercises. And I have found a set of classes that's on called Senior Planet. And Senior Planet has a Monday and Wednesday Fit Fusion, which is a fairly active kind of exercise program, and a Tuesday and Thursday chair yoga, which amplifies a lot of what you just did. It's on at 9:30, and you just go to Senior Planet or through Avenidas here in Palo Alto, the senior center, and I've just found that as a good way to overcome this lack of self-discipline to do things.
That's so great for sharing, Bob. And I'm sure everyone else who's here could benefit from learning about that too. And motivation can be hard, right? If we're thinking, oh, I don't really want to exercise, or thinking about starting to exercise. But I always say start small in the bite-sized pieces, right? So rather than thinking you have to do 30 minutes or you have to go out and do something really intense and long, let's just start small with 5 minutes. So a lot of the exercises like we did here, you can simply do them, you know, after you drink your cup of coffee in the morning, later in the day as you're watching your favorite TV show. There's a lot of ways to slowly incorporate movement, but I love what you shared, and that's awesome. It sounds so much fun.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. I love, Gina, how you mentioned like just 5 minutes, like this exercise that we all did. I feel like my heart rate is up a little bit. And I just think that that's like a great way to break it down into those bite-sized pieces. And just really trying to make these things realistic, and you're able to kind of start them. I think sometimes we think about these big, long goals, but just bite-sized pieces.
And for a lot of the movements I shared today, if you're not quite comfortable yet, standing up and doing the squats. There's lots of different variations that you can do, but I always say start seated and kind of work your way from there. I didn't mention this earlier, but if you're not quite comfortable, doing a squat by yourself, that's what a chair is for. So maybe you kind of decide to kind of stand like this and just squat a little bit. That all counts. We all have to start somewhere.
Gina, I'm in a cast on my right leg. I tried to do as much as I could today with you, but if you're incapacitated, you can still do the upper part, right?
100%. Yes. But one thing you can do if you're in a cast for a little bit longer and you're not able to move your lower body, if you start doing those upper bodies that I showed you today and you're noticing, this is a lot easier than it was before, this is where you can take a water bottle, fill it up with water, and you can use these as your weights if you wanted to. You also can purchase some resistance bands, which are usually between $5 to $10, and that's something you can just hold the band, and that makes it a little bit harder. So it's a great way to kind of amp up the intensity if you're limited in other ways.
Great. And I think we have just one more minute. So just to kind of close out, definitely, Gina, a round of applause. Thank you so much for coming and leading us through this exercise. Definitely thank you so much to Stanford Media and the Stanford Health Library. I hope that you all get to learn some stuff from the breakout rooms. And then we'll be posting these recordings and send them out. I'll send them with the recipes, and then you'll have Gina's workout and some information if you wanted to get more connected to some of the Stanford resources. But thank you all so much for joining on this Tuesday afternoon. We hope to see you on Thursday at the Pharmacy Talk 5 to 6, and then the Celebrity Chef from 6:30 to 7:30. And yeah, just appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.